Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is. Happy Friday. I hope that your week has been outstanding and amazing and you've accomplished every single thing you've set your mind to. We have a heck of a stream planned ahead. It's been jamming. And of course, I want to welcome you here and enjoy the day, which we've got two celebrations today. First of all, it's a beautiful Friday. We made it through another very busy week, and we're happy to be here. But it's also Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, my friends. I want to share with you a lovely message that came out of the White House today as they celebrate along with the rest of us. In fact, that's why we're here with a little bit of an early show, so that we can all end early and go celebrate our smoochy poos out there. But the White House is celebrating the same. They say, Happy Valentine's Day, America. Roses are red, violets are blue. Come here illegally and we'll deport you. One of the most romantic things I've ever read in my entire life. What an amazing White House message that is. It is true. We might love you as a person, but you can't stay here. You gotta go. Bye. So that's the White House, and we're excited about that. We got a bunch of business to attend to today, my friends. Really glad that you're here. Thanks again for joining us early. Hope your week is outstanding and amazing. We've got a bunch of stuff that is cooking. So let me give you a quick preview on what's happening. This so-called prosecutor is no longer a so-called prosecutor. Danielle Sassoon exits. And the media is like, she resigns. And everybody's all shocked about it, like she's throwing a hissy fit on her way out the door. We'll read her letter where she was really screeching and whining and blah, blah, blah. So we'll just hit the highlights of it. You can see it's all there. But the fun part of this is that Emil Bove, delivered the ruckus. And this was just beautiful. So he responded to her little hissy fit. And Emil, man, you don't want to get on his wrong side because, first of all, he didn't only go after her. He said, since you implicated all of your colleagues, we're going to go after them too and ask what they know about this whole scam. So it has just been beautiful to watch that, not playing around. And Trump just minutes ago was commenting on this, the media asking him about this resignation. And there's a series of resignations that have been happening at the DOJ, which we're happy about. It's like a good start. They should all go. Bye, Danielle. See you later. Good luck. And get out of there. But Trump is going to tell us that, they're going to fire everybody anyway. So who cares? Bye. Have a nice life. So we'll talk about that. Then we had a hearing that took place today. Remember, a bunch of states, 19 of them, suing President Trump and the DOGE committee saying, we want our grift. All the blue states getting all of the blue money, which is our money, are all upset that the floodgates have been turned off and their democratic infrastructure is going to evaporate overnight. So they're upset. They sued. There was a hearing today in front of this judge, Judge Jeanette Vargas, who was, of course, a Biden appointee. And so we'll see what happened there today. We had two people who were there. We had Inner City Press, who was reporting, along with Adam Klasfeld. And we'll see what happens. Now, this is obviously unequivocal lawfare that has been happening here for quite some time, I think long planned. And this morning on our members only stream, we were talking about this because we're assembling our mind map now to connect all the dots on this. But there is a lot happening. And so we'll see what was going on specifically in court today, courtesy of Inner City Press. We'll hit the X scripts and then we'll see what reaction to this is, because there was a lot happening. Even Tish James was out there and she was not happy. So we got Tish James and others coming out, and we'll see what CBS Mornings had to say about this. But then we'll turn our attention. We had a couple of very problematic and unconstitutional rulings that dropped out of the District of Columbia, the DC court. And what you'll notice is another set of states are also suing Elon Musk. And they're saying he's unlawful. He is not properly appointed. I think they're trying to make like a Jack Smith argument. Like they're saying Elon Musk is not a real boy. But Elon Musk is not a special counsel. And he's not appointed to go prosecute anybody. In fact, I think that Elon is more analogous to a chief of staff, which is also not a Senate confirmed position, just somebody who helps facilitate relationships all across the executive branch. That's all Elon is. Susie Wiles was never elected or confirmed. Neither was Ron Klain. What's the difference? There is no difference. They're just upset that Elon is obliterating their entire operation. So they sued. We had this lunatic judge also issued another order, Global Health Council, which is basically saying this judge is in charge of foreign aid. Wild what's happening out of DC. But again, I'm not worried about it. I think that this is just a giant trap that really they're setting for themselves. And so we'll talk about that. We've also got this fun clip from the House Foreign Affairs Committee that gives us receipts that explains the USAID is in fact spending your money in inappropriate ways. And we got some inside stuff from inside the Oval Office, which we'll come back on courtesy of Dan Scavino. So we got a bunch of great stuff to attend to today. And I'm really glad that you're here and with us. And we got some great memes that have come in here, courtesy of our friends over on Locals. We got some Valentine's Day memes. So we'll just hit some of these real quickly. Here's one from Fauci to America. Fauci says, "Will you be mine? You make my heart stop." Oh, Fauci. Wow, that's so nice. And that one came over from Sergeant GPS. Here's another one from Sergeant. And Glocky, I think, shared this one this morning. Fonts matter. You'll always be mine versus you'll always be mine. Right? So some fun stuff out there. All right, so we'll come back on this one. Trump is really also sharing some Valentines. Trump is here. He says, "I'd take a bullet for you." And he did. That's why we're grateful for you, Mr. President. Thank you for doing that for us. All right, for taking a bullet for us. All right, so thank you to Sergeant and our Locals friends for sharing those. Plenty more over there that we'll come back on. But, all right, let's talk about this person who is a so-called prosecutor who is now resigning in disgrace. Federal prosecutors now shown the door. This so-called prosecutor, Danielle Sassoon, no longer going to be with the DOJ. Goodbye. This is a good start. Hopefully many more are to follow. But she now exits the courthouse. This was a photo from a year ago, but CNN is telling us, who is Danielle Sassoon? She quit amid a directive to stop the Eric Adams corruption case. Okay, so she was there, Southern District of New York, and Trump came in. They got an order from on high, get rid of the Eric Adams case because it was created out of corruption. Remember, Eric Adams started to not be in alignment with the Biden administration when they said, you need to take every single illegal alien that comes across the border and don't even complain about it. He says, well, we can't really afford it. They said, how about we indict you since you're back talking to us? Then they indicted him. Obviously, it was political, and we got no love for Mayor Adams or Democrats in New York. Like, you know, enjoy your sanctuary city. Just don't make us pay for it. And you know, good luck. But what they were doing was taking our money and in having our country infiltrated and invaded by foreign aliens, right? So that is a problem for us. And so Adams was a part of the problem, but the DOJ, of course, is obviously also corrupt and a huge part of the problem. So we were kind of caught between a rock and a hard place there, but I digress. They got the order to dismiss the case, and then this prosecutor just threw an absolute hissy fit. Now, a lot of this is irrelevant because she was going to be gone anyways, as President Trump is going to explain. So we're not keeping her anyways. So she's resigning like she's throwing a temper tantrum to draw a bunch of attention to herself as she's going to leave anyways. Like, I'm resigning because I'm taking a moral stand. You're going to be fired on Tuesday anyways. So way to grab the stapler on your way out and turn this into a moral thing so that you can, you know, probably get a new job somewhere at your new location or get a job with Jen Psaki on MSNBC. But here's what she said, right? And a lot of the left is salivating over this. They're like, wow, she's so brave. She's so independent and strong. Finally, there's someone standing up for our Constitution. Okay, all of that. So it worked exactly because these people have no real discernment when they are interpreting these things. But anyways, she sent this. She says, okay, Pam Bondi, says whiny prosecutor. You know, on February 10th, I got a memo from Emil directing me to dismiss the indictment against Adams. Now, I'm not going to repeat the evidence that proves he did these things, but Bove never called into question that this investigation occurred. And there is support here that's serious in fact and law. But Bove's memo directs me to dismiss an indictment returned by a duly constituted grand jury, which again means nothing because as you heard the phrase, you can't indict a ham sandwich. So they always say, like, a duly constituted grand jury. Yeah, well, we know what you guys do to grand juries there in New York. We know what kind of evidence you present, all right? And we have evidence of that from the Trump prosecution, where the lawyer, Robert Cohn, who was representing Michael Cohen or working with Michael Cohen, was brought in to testify in front of the grand jury there and explain what a joke it was to all of us. So no one cares about your little grand juries. Okay, you guys have perverted the justice system. So you can't come back and constantly rely on these things and all of us just sit here like, we used to, like, well, I guess there was some process, right? 20 years ago, well, it was a grand jury, jury of our peers, it's not weaponized. No one cares anymore. So just keep saying that. New York, it's a joke. For reasons having nothing to do with the strength of the case, raises serious concerns that render the dismissal inconsistent with my ability and my duty to prosecute federal crimes. Okay. Now, when I took my oath of office 3 weeks ago, and I guess she's like brand new, or did she retake it when Trump was inaugurated? Maybe they retake them. I vowed to well and faithfully discharge my duties. Now, I'm guided, among other things, by the Justice Manual and the values that have defined, now, okay, so it's just a re-swearing, of my 10 years of public service, which again, it's like, yeah, we also are knowing what that means, okay, what 10 years of public service looks like, right? All the civil servants are getting a second look too. Now, you and I have yet to meet Pam, let alone discuss this, but as you know, I clerked for Wilkinson, 4th Circuit, and Antonin Scalia. Don't you dare besmirch his good name. On the U.S. Supreme Court, both men instilled in me a sense of duty to contribute to the public good and blah, blah, blah. I've always considered it my obligation. I therefore deem it necessary to the faithful discharge of my duties to raise concerns expressed in this letter. And now I'm concerned, right? If you want me to dismiss this, then I have to raise an objection, which is what she's doing. Says, Emil wants me to dismiss these charges, saying that it's the same thing as a Russian's arm dealer with Victor Boot and blah, blah, blah. Federal prosecutors may not consider, okay, so she's going to give us a lecture, which we don't really care about. So she's going to say, for the reasons above, I do not believe there are reasonable arguments to dismiss this. Now, I understand Bove disagrees. I'm mindful of your recent order reiterating our duty to make good faith arguments, but I cannot make these arguments. And the rationale given by Bove is a bargain that a prosecutor should not make, right? So in other words, Mayor Adams is the mayor of a city. So we kind of need him to do some things. And we can't have Mayor Adams doing things if he's under federal indictment. So we need him to do these things because there's bigger criminals at play. And look, again, the Mayor Adams case is mostly a joke. If Mayor Adams is guilty, every single congressperson is guilty. Mayor Adams, we went through this. He was like getting plane upgrades and like first class upgrades and free flights and crap like that, right? It was all part of his celebrity, and he thought he was a high roller, and they're giving him nothing that I'm endorsing, all right? Not at all. But it wasn't Gold Bar Bob Menendez type of things, right? Where he was like selling secrets or selling access to the Egyptians or whatever that was. So it was inappropriate, unethical, outside of the line. If I were him, I wouldn't do any of that. I'd just pay for my stuff and just call it a day, because you don't want to be under scrutiny for anything. You want to be beyond reproach, and all of our elected leaders should be beyond reproach. Not even scrutinized. But that being said, okay, it's pretty small fries compared to all of the other criminals running around New York at the current moment. So she says it's an undue negotiation. Says, look, I remain baffled, says this prosecutor, Danielle, by the rushed and superficial process. And you collaborated with Mayor Adams's counsel and without my direct input, she says, on the ultimate stated rationales for dismissal. Mr. Bove admonished me to be mindful of my obligation to defend the interests of the United States and to advance good faith arguments. Now, I hope you share my view, Pam, in considering the concerns of this, and you can meet with me. Now, in the event you're unwilling to meet or to reconsider the directive in light of the problems raised by Bove, I am prepared to offer my resignation. She was going to be fired on Tuesday anyways. Now, it has been and continues to be my honor to serve as the prosecutor for the Southern District of New York. Again, one of the most corrupt districts in the entire country. And we've seen what they did to the Harvey Weinstein trial, what they did in the Southern District of New York with Ghislaine Maxwell was there, pretty sure. We've covered so many, but a lot of corruption has been there. Like, why are they doing that? What's weird? What's going on there? So Danielle Sassoon signs it, Southern District of New York. Bye, good riddance. You were going to be gone anyways. Now, what's so interesting about this is not her letter, because it's just, a whiny prosecutor. They're very good at whining and being whiny prosecutors. But this is what is fun. This is the response. This came out in direct response to her, courtesy of Emil Bove. And he's not playing around at all. Here is what he said in response. All right, Danielle Sassoon. This is acting U.S. Attorney. This is from the Office of the Deputy Attorney General, Emil Bove. Tells us, Miss Sassoon. Now, in response to your refusal to comply with my instruction to dismiss the prosecution of Mayor Adams, I write to notify you of the following. First, your resignation is accepted. Pack your crap and get out. This decision is based on your choice to continue pursuing a politically motivated prosecution despite an express instruction to dismiss the case. You lost sight of the oath that you took when you started at the DOJ by suggesting that you retain discretion to interpret the Constitution in a manner inconsistent with the policies of a democratically elected president and a Senate-confirmed attorney general. You think that your authority and discretion supersedes the president and the AG. That's curious, because you took an oath to not do that. And second, now, as you indicated that the prosecution team is aware of your communications with the DOJ, because in her letter, she's like, and I talked to my colleagues, and my colleagues are great. There's okay, all that crap. We all unusual, never seen. Okay. Since they're aware of your communications with the Justice Department, and they're all supportive of your approach, your entire team, and the team is also unwilling to comply with the order to dismiss the case, now we know. Now, accordingly, the other U.S. attorneys who are also principally responsible for this, they're also being placed on off-duty administrative leave. Thanks for letting us know that they're not working with us. And they're going to be investigated by the Office of the Attorney General and Office of the Professional Responsibility, both of which are also going to evaluate your conduct for poisoning the pot and talking to all of your colleagues to have a mutiny with inside the DOJ. So you're in trouble, you're gone, you're going to be investigated, and since you ratted on everybody else, so are they. Thanks. Now, the leave status will remain in effect until further notice. Now, this is not disciplinary or adverse actions, and the U.S. attorneys are going to get paid. They're going to get their full salaries, and they're going to get all their health benefits and go to the doctor a million times a month. While the U.S. attorneys are in an off-duty status, they are not to use their government-issued laptop. They are not to use their phone. Don't use your badge or your access cards unless you're explicitly directed to do so. And while you're on leave, if you're contacted by management, the attorneys must respond by phone or email no later than the close of business the following day. So get out. Don't take anything. Now, at the conclusion of these investigations, the Attorney General will determine whether termination or some other action is appropriate, so bye. Now, based on attendance at our recent meetings, Danielle, I understand that the relevant other attorneys who were also in those meetings are Hagen Scotton and Derek Wickstrom. And Hagen also submitted his resignation, and he cried even harder than Danielle did because he's even worse. Hagen, I think it's a dude, I don't know. Hagen sent another letter in. He's like, I resign, and you're going to, whatever, bye. You're going to get fired anyways. Bye. Thank you for this. No one cares. Get out. If either of these attorneys wished to comply with my directive, but were prohibited from doing so by you or mismanagement, or if these U.S. attorneys wish to make me aware of other mitigating circumstances, like if you fingered them, but they didn't actually do anything wrong, they can contact my office directly. Otherwise, they're done too, and Hagen's gone. The Justice Management Division and others have taken steps to remove access to electronic devices, so like they're sitting there, their emails are just cut off. And I ask that you and others cooperate with those efforts to preserve all of your hard copy records relating to this matter, even if they're stored on your personal devices. So we're coming for them. Now, third, under your leadership here from the SDNY, the office, your office, demonstrated itself to be incapable of fairly and impartially reviewing the circumstances of this prosecution at all. And so therefore, the prosecution of Mayor Adams in his case is now transferred to the Justice Department. And we're going to file a motion to dismiss on our own. And my prior directive regarding no further targeting is also in place. And let's give some background on this. So thank you for your little interpretation of how this went down, but here's what really went down. And this is why your corrupt prosecution is now done. On January 20th, Trump issued an executive order saying we're going to stop the weaponization of law enforcement. That includes you. Now, your office was not exempted from any of that. On February 10th, I reviewed the cases and I directed you to dismiss the prosecution against Mayor Adams based on well-founded concerns regarding the weaponization and election interference and other impediments that interfere with his ability to govern and to keep New York safe. Now, my memo indicated that I acted pursuant to the authorization of the Attorney General. The mechanism for seeking dismissal is the proper rule. And you should have followed that rule, but you didn't. Now, prior to issuing my memo to you, which instructed you to do this, I reviewed public filings in this case. I reviewed your office's memos, and I reviewed all the classified garbage that you guys had assembled in your files. I met with you. I met with the team. I held separate meetings that involved you, the team, and defense counsel, and I met with you privately in my office. And you noted in your letter that during the second meeting, I did question why a member of the team appeared to have been brought for the sole purpose of transcribing our discussion. Because in her letter, she said that Emil scolded her and the person taking notes. Why are you taking notes in this meeting? You don't need to do that. And she brought the person specifically for that. So that's why, right? She's trying to make him look like he's covering something up. He told me to delete the notes. No, she brought some hack to transcribe the meeting because she was planning this whole operation to create a little media bubble for herself. And what are you doing? Who is this dude? Why did you bring this dude here? Who is this dude with you? Why is he writing everything down? Says you failed to note, however, that I made those comments in the context of a conversation about leaks relating to our deliberations, right? So now I'm wondering who's doing the leaking. Probably this woman. Says you were there, and during those meetings, I invited written submissions from both sides. So I did ask for your input, and I did talk to you, liar. Why'd you claim I didn't? And I carefully reviewed everything you sent me. And so your recent suggestions that there was a lack of process are not grounded in reality. Liar. Now, you have not complied with my clear directives or my memo. And further, you made clear you did not intend to do so. During phone calls with myself, you also talked to Chad Mizell, forgot about him, and the chief of staff. You also had a written submission to the Attorney General that day. You also stated that the prosecution team had reviewed your letter and that they would not file a motion to dismiss the case. Then we got your email. Thanks for all those facts. Now you know. Now, the weaponization finding that I have drafted in my memo was made pursuant to a policy set forth by Trump, who is the only elected official in the executive branch, in connection with a decision that was approved by Pam, who was Senate approved, saying we made those decisions. Now, your office has no authority to contest the weaponization finding or the second independent basis requiring a dismissal set forth in my memo. The DOJ will not tolerate insubordination and apparent misconduct, all reflected in the approach that you and your office have taken in this matter. Misconduct. So his memo is in compliance with the rest of the DOJ policy manual, let's say. And they had multiple meetings about this, but she's like, we never know anything, and you were trying to cover this up. He's giving us clear process that occurred in this decision. Also, now you're well aware of the department's weaponization concerns about the handling of the Mayor Adams case. Those concerns include behavior that supports, at minimum, unacceptable appearances of impropriety and the politicization of your office. The investigation was accelerated after Adams publicly criticized Biden. And it was led by a former U.S. attorney with deep connections to the former AG, who oversaw the weaponization of the DOJ. And so based on my review, the charging decision was rushed because the presidential election approached. And as the former U.S. attorney was wanting to be politically appointed in case Kamala Harris won. Wow. So there was probably some pressure from the White House to go put efforts on Adams, and somebody was doing that to get in the Kamala administration. It's sick. Now, as Trump won the election and all of their plotting was doomed, in late December, the former U.S. attorney launched a personal website, which looks like a campaign website, that touts articles about the prosecution of Adams, which titles like Damian Williams has come for the Kings, a mayor, a rapper, a senator, a billionaire. Damian Williams, remember him? Meet the man who has prosecuted them all, right? He's like creating his little Rolodex of prosecutions because he's a corrupt person. And this is how prosecutors think. They don't care about your presumption of innocence or who you are. They just come get you because they're corrupt. Damian Williams, he wrote this article, flexes New York power against Adams and Sean Combs, right? And the Sean Combs case, right, as horrendous as it is also looking like, what kind of indictment was that? Similar thing, right? He's just ratcheting these up like notches on his belt. It's pretty sick, even though these are not esteemable people in any sense of the term. They still deserve process in America. The former U.S. attorney increased the appearances of impropriety. He also released an op-ed saying an indictment of the sad state of New York, indicted the mayor. He disparaged Mayor Adams, says America's most vital city is being led by a broken ethical compass, and only he can help because he's going to run for office, obviously. Yet you did not directly defend his behavior, did you? In your little filing, did you? Nor could you. His actions inappropriately politicized and tainted your entire office, maybe permanently. Yeah. Instead of addressing these concerns with the district court, you simply claimed that these were beside the point. Why? Because they're inconvenient for you. Yeah. Not true. In fact, it's very much the point. The action by Damian Williams implicate the concerns that Trump has raised about the weaponization of the DOJ. The fact that the district court denied the defense motion does not establish that the continuing prosecution is some approval of your discretion to do this. And similarly, the fact that other attorneys convinced the grand jury to return an indictment based on a one-sided and an inherently impartial presentation of the evidence doesn't mean anything, as we mentioned. The DOJ is not going to ignore the fact that the timing of the charges that were authorized by Damian Williams interferes with his ability to run an election. Oh, yeah. So when Damian runs for the mayor, then his opponent will have an ongoing criminal indictment that Damian Williams was originally initiating. Your reference to the schedule of underlying prosecution of Menendez is not persuasive at all. Now, if anything, that experience counsels in favor of more caution, not less. But the record doesn't reflect the caution. In fact, in October, the prosecutor responsible for prosecuting Adams represented, quote, that the first batch of discovery was about 560 gigabytes of data, which is like so much. It's crazy. Thus, as a trial date was negotiated, Adams was faced with the impossible choice of trying to defend himself at a pre-election trial or actually reviewing the discovery at a post-election trial. They did the same exact thing with Trump and the January 6th case, if you recall. It's the same thing. Now, in your letter, you made the dubious choice to invoke Justice Scalia. Oh, see, that made me mad too. Now, as you're likely aware from your professional experience, Scalia actually understood weaponization and lawfare. Love this, so shove it right back down her gullet. Now, nothing is so politically effective, says Scalia, as the ability to charge that one's opponent and his associates to charge that they're not just wrong-headed, but that they're actually crooks. Okay, not that they're dumb, not that they're idiots, not that they're just misguided, but they're criminals. They broke the law. They're ending democracy. Ugh. And nothing so effectively gives an appearance of validity to those charges as a DOJ investigation and a prosecution, right? And that's Scalia. He said that back in 1988. Now, I don't know how applicable that is anymore. I mean, the DOJ is still obviously applicable, but the DOJ, by and large, has wrecked its credibility. So has the court system. So now I think a lot of people, it's like going to be the same thing they did to the CDC, right? CDC were like, wow, they're going to take care of us and prevent disease. Then we're like, wow, they like misguided us pretty badly on that one. DOJ is going to have the same reckoning. We're going through it right now. And the courts, especially the DC circuit, is also doing the same thing to themselves. Now, Emil says, there is also great irony in your invocation of the famous speech by Attorney General Robert Jackson. His remarks are unquestionably relevant here, but not in the way you think. Jackson warned that, quote, some measure of centralized control over federal prosecutors was necessary. The senior leadership of the DOJ exercises that. And one of Jackson's concerns was that the most dangerous power of the prosecutor arises from the risk that the prosecutor would pick people that he thinks he should get rather than pick cases that need to be prosecuted, right? That has been perverting our government for years now. Now, regardless of how the investigations of Adams was initiated, by 2024, your office's work was extremely problematic. And finally, your suggestion that Trump should issue a pardon to Adams reveals that your office's insubordination is little more than a preference to avoid a duty that you regard as unpleasant and politically inconvenient. Your oath, Danielle, to the Constitution does not permit you to substitute your policy judgment for that of the president or senior leadership of the DOJ. And you are in no position to suggest that the president exercise his exclusive authority to make your job easier. And so for all of these reasons, we're dismissing it. Your refusal to do that has only exacerbated the concerns that I thought existed initially. And finally, your objections to the second basis for my directive, I said that Adams can't do his job if he's under indictment, are based on exaggerated claims that further illustrate your ability to grapple with the problems of this case. Now, as a result of the pending prosecution, Adams is unable to communicate directly with the city officials he manages. He has been denied a security clearance that limits his access to details of national security issues in his own city. He can't speak to federal officials about imminent security threats, can't cooperate with the federal government. The situation is unacceptable, and it directly endangers the lives of millions of New Yorkers. Now, my directive to you reflected a determination by the DOJ that these safety risks greatly outweigh any risks you've identified. It's not for local federal officials like you, who lacks access to all the information, to question our judgments. And you claim to find my reference to Victor Bout, the Russian merchant of death, to be alarming, but you have missed the fundamental point, obviously. Presidents frequently make policy decisions that the DOJ is charged with implementing. Now, in connection with Bout, Biden made a very questionable decision to release the merchant of death from prison. But once the decision was made, it was the responsibility of your office to execute it. And regardless of anyone's personal positions on this, your office filed a decision to release Victor Bout. So you did it there. So release Mayor Adams. Okay, he's not the merchant of death. He just likes nice flight upgrades. That was your job, and the job of the attorneys assigned here. You have all violated your oaths by failing to do it. In no valid sense do you uphold the Constitution by disobeying direct orders to implement the policy of a duly elected president. And anyone like you who is romanticizing that behavior does a disservice to the nature of this work and the public's perception of our efforts. And you have also strained unsuccessfully to say that there was some kind of quid pro quo. Totally false, as you acknowledged before in writing. Even you said that. The Justice Department is charged with keeping people safe across the country. Your job is to try to help keep the city safe, but your actions are endangering it. And more broadly, you're simply incorrect that there's no valid basis to seek a dismissal. And that contention is a dereliction of your duty, Danielle, to advocate zealously on behalf of the United States, the oath you swore to uphold. The main case you cite is this case, talking about expense and inconvenience. That's why they didn't dismiss that. That's not what we're talking about here. You're relying on a 57-year-old district court case? What are you talking about? The Attorney General has an absolute right to dismiss this, as this case says. Any judicial discretion is severely cabined to these other contexts. And so any concerns that you guys made up about, oh, we can't dismiss this because of case law, says that's ridiculous. They were not a valid basis for your insubordination. And so finally, and to be clear, while I elected to address two particular concerns in my memo, I have many other concerns about the case. So you screwed up on these 2 reasons, but I could have blasted you for a bunch of other stuff too. In fact, the case turns on factual and legal theories that are at best extremely aggressive, which was our read of it from the beginning. You can go back and watch the tape. We're reading this going, what? He got like upgrades and stuff? Like, okay, he probably got some financial benefits and so on and so forth, but he didn't do anything worse than Fannie did. Fannie's case was way worse. And she didn't get indicted. She got reelected. They love her in Georgia, in Fulton County at least. It was like the same thing, right? Fannie and her lover, they got $700,000. I don't know that we had anywhere close to that with Mayor Adams. You got like some flight upgrades to Turkey or whatever. For example, the district court explained that it's not inconceivable for the Second Circuit to hold that an official act, it might be applicable here. The district court also acknowledged that there is some force to Mayor Adams' challenges as to your theories, and that things of value in this case, you call them campaign contributions, which would require heightened proof. And as the office knows from the challenges you encountered in another decision where that case was dismissed. So in other words, you knew this was a weak case and you brought it anyways. There are also questionable behavior reflected in certain decisions that your team made, which we're going to look into in our forthcoming investigation. So get ready for that. Witnesses in the case do not appear to have been treated in a manner that is consistent with your claims about the seriousness of your allegations. It's my understanding that around the time the charges were filed, the prosecution team made representations to the defense counsel that are inconsistent with the Justice Manual and their definitions of a target and subject. Now, in the same period, despite already having started to draft a memo, the team invited Adams to a proffer. So they're scum. In other words, they had already made up their mind to prosecute him. Once they made their mind to prosecute him, he had to be treated accordingly, and they didn't do it that way. They started to draft a prosecution memo. They said, why don't you come in here and give us a bunch of evidence? They baited him into making unprotected statements after line prosecutors had already decided they were going after the guy. Corrupt prosecutors, no doubt. And he says, Emil from Trump's DOJ says, I take no pleasure in imposing these measures, initiating investigations, and requiring personnel from the Justice Department to come to your district to do work that your team should have done and is required to do. But in this instance, however, that is what is necessary to continue the process of reconciliation and restoration of our core values at the DOJ. And so, you're fired. Get out. Emil Bove, acting deputy AG, dropping the hammer. And man, that's how you do it right there. Don't get on Emil's bad side, all right? And don't point to your friends here and say, I talked to my friends and they agree with me. They should leave. Good. They can all leave with you. Pack your crap and go. So that is what happened at the DOJ. Shout out to Emil Bove for cleaning house. We'd like to see it. We want to see more. Here is the president getting asked about that today. Let me plug this little puppy in here so we can all hear this accordingly.
Adams' case resigned today, saying anyone who didn't press forward would be a coward. What's your reaction to that and to the overall implication that politics were at play here?
Well, I don't know about it. I mean, obviously I'm not involved in that. But I would say this, that if they had a problem, and these are mostly people from the previous administration, you understand, so they weren't going to be there anyway. They were going to all be gone or dismissed. If not, they know on Tuesday they're all being dismissed. You know, the whole country is being, because what you do is you come in and you put new people in. So when you say resign, they're going to be gone anyway. But I know nothing about the individual case. I know that they didn't feel it was much of a case. They also felt that it was unfair with the election. Look, I would know that better than anybody because
yes, you would.
I was weaponized more than any human being in the history probably of the world. And I won the election in a landslide, winning all 7 swing states, winning the popular vote and everything else, because the people got it. It was weaponized, and I was weaponized literally weeks before the election. But I think there's also something to be said. I read that. There's something to be said for what they were doing. It looked to me to be very political. But why didn't they bring this up like 4 or 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, or whatever it happened? You know, they just sat around and didn't complain. Then all of a sudden they complain, and they know they're all being dismissed anyway. So, you know, that's the way it is.
Yeah, so they're just doing it to make a name for themselves on the way out. It's a moral little preening. Oh, look how amazing I am for resigning and objecting to Trump. They'll all go get jobs at some lefty law firms or end up on MSNBC, but they're gone. Others are joining them soon, and we're here for it. All right, so that is what's happening in one part of New York. But in another part of New York, we have even more happening. And here is what's happening on the streets of New York. Letitia James and other blue states very upset with President Trump for cutting off their money. And they were in New York today for a hearing in front of Judge Vargas, a blue appointed judge, screaming about this injustice that is occurring to them and their states now that their funding has been cut off. Tish James was out there. Here's a little bit about what she sounded like, and then we'll jump over into the X script, courtesy of Inner City Press, who will detail for us what happened there with Judge Jeanette Vargas. But here's what it sounded like outside the court building. This, of course, is Tish James, the biggest Tish in all of New York, AG, Attorney General for the entire state, upset about what's happening there.
Save checks and balances! Save checks and balances! Save checks and balances!
And as attorneys general, we're not going to bow to the president or to Elon Musk. It's important that individuals understand that right now Elon Musk is untethered to any accountability at all. And the fact is that they would like for us to engage in an ideological litmus test. And that's why they've paused funds. That's why they have freezed Social Security and veterans payments. And payments
I don't think that's happened.
to the state of New York and to states all across this nation. It is unacceptable, unconstitutional, ultra-vires. They've exceeded their authority.
Whoa, calm, Tish.
And so it's important that attorneys general representing our respective states stand up and enforce the rule of law, because Elon
Musk with the K.
individuals at the Treasury.
Did this freeze? What happened here?
And the president of these United States is not above the law. And we will continue.
You guys need a new catchphrase, okay? Joe Biden just said that his entire family's above the law, including Hunter, who had 2 open criminal cases going against him. Fauci's above the law. Liz Cheney's above the law. Adam Schiff's above the law. Jamie Raskin's above the law. Come up with a new catchphrase, Tish.
You know, as attorneys general, we've been preparing for this. This is not the outcome that we wanted. We wanted to cooperate. But when you challenge the 14th Amendment, birthright citizenship, we acted. And
that's going to get resolved too. It's not a thing, okay? Supreme Court's going to resolve that too, so that's going to change.
Got a TRO. When you challenge the NIH, individuals who are engaging in research to find a cure to cancer, to find a cure to a cardiac disease.
Yes, I know. If they don't get their Democrat money, everyone's going to die of cancer. We're never going to have a cure for cancer because they're not getting funded. Give me a break. Or cardiac disease. Nobody was going to have heart problems, but now everyone is. All of a sudden. Isn't that fun?
We got a TRO. Funding. When you pause.
All right, that's all we can take. So she did. They got a TRO. They've got a bunch of these corrupt judges who have been weaponized to go after any American progress, like this woman here. Judge Jeanette Vargas is who we're going to be in her courtroom today. She was a Biden appointee. She did grant an initial restraining order against the Trump administration, and we're back in court today. Here is what the events look like, courtesy of our friends, Inner City Press, Matthew Russell Lee presiding. All rise. Oh, crap. Judge is coming. Stand up. Put your phone down. Judge Jeanette Vargas comes in. You know what she looks like. Says, all right, everybody. You know, we're here today on the preliminary injunction request. I have accepted 3 amicus briefs, including Iowa, 19 other states, in support of Trump and the defendants. Any evidentiary objections to having these briefs come in? No, not from us. No, not from us. All right, judge says, I want to begin with standing. All right. Why should we even have the states here? Like, why are you guys even here to begin with? New York State's lawyer, okay, so this is from the people challenging the orders from Trump, cutting off the funds. Your Honor, well, we're here because the Trump administration is blocking money on ideological grounds. And that confers standing under Article 3 in front of the courts. There's also personally identifying information that DOGE is accessing. And so that's part of an injury to the states. And so that's why we're here. So you have to stop Elon and turn the money back on. And it's all part of a single plan. And the judge says, well, has there been disclosure of any of that personally identifying information? Like, has that gone out to the public? Yes, Your Honor, he says. There was an unauthorized actor, okay? They had no authorized job duty to access this information at all. And the Inspector General of the Treasury Department is launching an audit. There's a substantial risk of future harm. And that is true. The Treasury Inspector General is launching. It's amazing that they're going to launch inspections into the people who are catching the fraud and the grift. It's incredible. Why didn't they just investigate the fraud and the grift? Why do they have to investigate the investigators of the fraud and the grift? But it is happening. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Treasury Watchdog is going to begin an audit. That whole process will start. They'll investigate, send letters, send subpoenas. Elon and the DOGE team will respond. Then they'll write a report. Then the report will go over to Congress. Then the congressional Democrats will have a hissy fit and cry from the ceilings again. And then they'll call for impeachment. Okay, this is how this is going to work. So that is happening. Now, we're there, and the judge says, well, what else? Says the states have had their bank accounts closed and accessed. And Mr. Krause's delegation, and we saw that, New York got $80 million rescinded because it's not their money. Their money went to Ukraine, thanks to Joe Biden. They can thank him for that. The states have had their bank accounts accessed, and Mr. Krause's delegation has not been approved by the ethics officer, so he can't touch these things. Oh, well, how do you address the argument, New York, that it's just speculative, okay, that there will be funding cuts, okay? These are pauses, and they're just analyzing things. Like, it's not even been a month yet. Like, the administration comes in, they assess things, and it takes time. So is it speculative? No, Your Honor, we're not basing on that. There are actual harms here that are happening right now. For example, there are cases in other courts that also have funding cuts as well. And it's like literal money. So we don't have the money, so we're dying. Judge says, all right, well, what about you, government? What's your position on standing? Like, should they even be here? Why are they even in this court? U.S. prosecutor for Trump's DOJ, called Jeffrey Osterreicher, pretty cool name, says, well, Your Honor, first of all, I just want to clear this up. Mr. Krause has now been cleared by the ethics officer, so he's good. So he's fine. So that's moot. And in fact, there is no injury in fact here. Okay, the states have not been injured in fact such that they get standing. Okay, this case, Your Honor, is about the Treasury Department employees accessing Treasury Department information. They're here talking about Elon and DOGE and whatever. It's Treasury Department employees accessing Treasury Department information. Nothing illegal. There's nothing nefarious. They're doing everything they're allowed to do. Well, they're claiming that there was information shared with other agencies like DOGE and the Executive Office of the President and so on. What's going on? Well, yeah, there were emails. I mean, they were communicating from the Treasury Department to other branches, but I don't know what kind of info was shared. Well, what about access to source codes, says this judge? Isn't there a risk of hacking, as a concrete harm to the states? She's like just trying to make something up. Couldn't they be hacked if they're in there looking at that source code? She had no idea what source code is, no idea what access means, never understood the movie Hackers, never watched the movie Hackers, doesn't know anything about it. Prosecutor says, Your Honor, he was in sandbox mode with precautions, so there's no risk of that. Well, Your Honor, and then the judge says, well, why was everything so fast? Like, why do they move so quickly? This is what they're really upset about. The time frame seems abbreviated. Like, it was just all this happened in a matter of days. Like, why did you guys move so fast? Which is why they're so upset about this, because it's happening. Like, they can't formulate a response. Why don't you guys slow down? Why the rush? Well, because Trump signed executive orders and we had deadlines. Okay, I know he did that, but I question whether the manner in which it could have been implemented could have been slowed down, with training given. Was there training given? Judge, we don't care about your training. It's not your job to execute the laws. That's the executive branch's job, to execute the laws. If you think the execution of the law was inappropriate, or people are going to be harmed, or there are consequences for that, that's not your problem. The rest of the public can hold the executive branch accountable via voting. And if Congress is upset about that, their check and balance is to impeach the president. You don't get to substitute your judgment with the president's judgment with yours. Training, was there training given? No! We're talking about two individuals, one with over-the-shoulder access. This is not about analyzing PII. We're not even looking at that, okay, Judge? No one's looking at information. No one wants Elizabeth Warren's social security number, okay? We're looking at broad patterns for systemic failures, like where people are not filling out the reason for the payment, and those are getting cut off. It's not about any of that. So the judge says, okay, fine. So let's turn to the merits of this claim here. Judge says, I want to start with the states. The states say, judge says, I read the declarations from the states, and they say there was an inquiry into the USAID payments, which they then decided to do through the agency. Is that right? New York State says, well, I don't think that's correct, Your Honor. They were using tests in the sandbox. But it's not a legitimate agency function to create an ideological screen. There is no ideological screen. What, fraud? Or abuse? A privacy impact assessment needed to be done. It would have slowed things down, to be sure, which is all they want. They're just like, man, we have to find other funds. We have to get people off-boarded into other entities. This law does not allow this to be rushed. This was not tax administration or something. And Your Honor, the way they did this subverts the law. They're creating an ideological screen here, which is their prerogative, right? They won the election. They don't have to fund your tranny crap. We are that our preliminary injunction, if granted, be sent to every Treasury Department employee. There are compliance issues in the case before the court in Rhode Island as well. That's a separate parallel case that's happening. They say, all right, what about you, DOJ? Your Honor, there is no final agency action here, so there's nothing for them to even sue over. Well, what about the disclosure? They say that some of the information was disclosed. Well, I hear what you're saying about that, but we resist that there are consequences that came from that plan. We don't see any law to apply to the engagement plan. Okay, there's no standard to judge this. She says, well, wouldn't it have been wiser for the Treasury Department to conduct a privacy impact analysis and take some time to consider mitigation measures? Shouldn't you have done it my way, right? Another judicial bureaucrat who's never run anything in her life except her little courtroom, which is run by other people like the clerk and other people. Why didn't you do it my way? Because your way sucks. Your way has been how it's been going for this entire time. We're doing it our way. We got elected. Your Honor, he says it exactly. Your Honor, there was thought given to it, okay? Wouldn't it have been wiser? No, nothing coming out of your mouth is wise. So it's not arbitrary and capricious. We did our job. Judge says, Mr. Amir from New York, Your Honor, you don't create a sandbox if you're not developing something in it. That's why they're in the sandbox, because they're doing work. We ask for a preliminary injunction and that the TRO be extended until then. We don't want them to bring in any more DOGE team engineers. The judge says, the Trump team says, Your Honor, this is about policy, okay? We set policy and we're doing policy. There is nothing unlawful about the Treasury Department carrying out the priorities of the new administration. Judge says, well, I'm going to think about it. I'm going to go reserve my decision, but I'm going to rule shortly, but not today. But says, now I'm going to extend the TRO, right, for her little friends there. So this is adjourned. So, of course, Judge Vargas, Biden's appointee from the very corrupt Southern District of New York that just had their prosecutors resign in a hissy fit, is going to extend the TRO against the states and maintain the status quo so they can continue to get their money and they can continue, I guess, to try to impede what DOGE is currently doing. So that is what happened there. We saw Letitia James is having a meltdown, but here was another take over from CBS. They're explaining, they're going to lose a lot of these. And I think this is right. What's happening right now is they're going overboard. They're biting off more than they can chew. They're going to have to swallow it. It's going to come down hard from the Supreme Court when the time comes. But here is another take on CBS Morning.
I'm really anxious to hear what you have to say here, because you've got voices on the left who are saying that the president lacks authority to make these different moves, and then voices on the right who are saying that the judges who are trying to stop him, they lack the authority to stop him. So big picture, what's your verdict?
Tony, there's truth on both sides. And so I think this is one of those where we kind of have to just take a breath and kind of meet in the middle here. Obviously, there's no question that Trump is really pushing that legal envelope with some of these executive orders and actions, and some of that's going to exceed his executive authority. But there's also no question that some of the judges are going a little too far and putting the brakes on actions that Trump clearly has the authority to do. So, what does this mean? I think this all shows that at least here, the system is working like it's supposed to. There's no constitutional crisis.
There is no constitutional crisis. They keep trying to bait that to happen. They want Trump to object to all of this stuff and just do certain things. He's not been doing that at all. There's been absolute tactical and strategic compliance from President Trump and the DOJ. Much to the frustration of many of us who just want this stuff to get done already, and we're tired of the left organizing lawfare operations that are funded by Lord knows who to the tune of hundreds of lawyers to gum up the progress, to continue the fraud and to continue the infrastructure funding for their own side. So it's all coming to a close.
Right now.
All will be coming to a close at some point once the Supreme Court comes and weighs in on this. But right now, I think that it is early. Like, we are still in the very early stages of this. Trump has not even been in office for 1 month yet. And once these appeals begin to materialize, what these lower court judges are doing is making their own actions. When you bundle them all up and aggregate them together, one judge says he can't even take the websites down. Another judge says the Treasury can't access the Treasury. What? Another judge says Trump can't withhold funds that are clearly fraudulent. Had to walk that one back. So they're all digging a hole for themselves that will ultimately land up right in front of the Supreme Court. So watch what they say when they're saying there is a constitutional crisis. They're trying to create an impeachment trap for Trump. It's obviously not true. Now, it is disgusting and unconstitutional what these judges are doing, and there needs to be serious reform in the form of impeachment or removal through the lawful process. I think would be a welcome development, but there is a lot of hystericism here trying to smear Trump as being the instigator of this. He is not at all. He's exercising the lawful power of the executive branch, and he'll be vindicated with time.
Now, people are suing over these programs, these actions. Judges are blocking them. Trump is then appealing that.
Right.
He is not ignoring judicial orders. He is filing court papers saying that he has the authority. And on some of these, he is going to win.
Yes.
As we saw this week when a federal judge backed away from his earlier order and said that the buyout program Trump had wanted to do for 75,000 people who took it, that could go forward.
So, Jan, let's look at some of these individually. The example of the president trying to freeze federal spending. Is that within his purview, or really should that be left to Congress, which has the power of the purse?
Okay, so I don't want to keep saying, well, it depends, but it depends. And I think on that one, like on a lot of legal issues, I know.
Well, it was a very broad question, okay? There's dozens of lawsuits. Many of them are attacking some form of federal spending. So it's kind of a broad, so it does depend. It depends on what spending are they challenging. What are they saying Trump did illegally? So it does depend.
Devil is in the details, but it really is, because obviously the president can take a pause for some of this stuff and take stock of some of these programs. Are the grants going to the right people? Remember, President Biden took quite a while to dole out and start doling out all that money that Congress appropriated for the border wall. That was kind of controversial then, but he had the authority to do it because it was considered programmatic. Where it becomes a problem is where there are deadlines and specific things. And it appears that this is going to be some indefinite impoundment, as they say. And I know we all love to talk about the Impoundment Control Act of 1974.
They do love to talk about it.
But that is a problem because that law says that the president honestly cannot withhold these kind of funds. Trump is going to argue that's unconstitutional.
Because it is. Yeah, and impoundment, the Impoundment Control Act was passed in response to Nixon, and I think it is essentially eliminating a presidential power that had existed and had been utilized for years. Tons of presidents had done that, all the way going back to Jefferson and others. Now, they made decisions on where the funds could go. Like Jefferson, I think his story was the Congress appropriated $50,000 for a ship, right, for a new boat to protect the Louisiana, whatever. And he decided that after he was not going to spend the money on that because there was another decision and they had a treaty or something, so it didn't need the money, and he moved it around. And it was kind of a more amicable decision, but that was a precedent of the impoundment power, right? The president doesn't have to spend money exactly as Congress appropriates because there's a practical component to it, right? Congress may spend a bunch of money and then the president receives it and says, that's a terrible idea. I've got to take care of the country. I'm not going to go fund the enemy who is hurting America, right? So I have to take care, bring it to the people. If the people are unhappy about it, they can whine to their Congress people. The Congress people can then impeach the president. That's the mechanism. The president doesn't just take orders and have to go fund comic books in Peru. So very interesting reporting from CBS, kind of breaking the news to them. Trump's going to win a lot of these. I think they are right. Now, let's talk about some other insane things. Democrat judges in Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia, strike back against Trump. They drop a bunch of these orders that are pretty horrific. I think that a lot of them are going to be reversed. But this is another lawsuit that actually just got dropped as well. Bunch of additional states, New Mexico, Arizona, Michigan, are suing. They want a restraining order. They want to stop Elon. They say he's unelected, unconfirmed. He's exercising a ton of authority and is violating the appointments clause of the Constitution, which again, I think is a stretch. He is analogous to a chief of staff, facilitating progress across multiple agencies, just like Susie Wiles, just like Ron Klain, just like Rahm Emanuel. Nothing says that he has to be Senate confirmed at all. He's canceled contracts and other things. He is not, okay? He's like a consultant. The agency heads are canceling the contracts. His teams are working and getting integrated as employees, and they're members of the DOGE team, which was created by Barack Obama. So it's all constitutional. The states are whining about it. It's unconstitutional. They say, no, it isn't. So they sued. They want everything stopped. Here's what all these loser states are saying. My loser state's on there, unfortunately, because we got crap Chris Mays for the time being. And their time is going to be coming to a close. I can feel it in my bones. So here says states want this court to grant a TRO. And what they're asking for is that DOGE be stopped. No more data for DOGE. They're trying to cut off his data. Stop. They want DOGE stopped and enjoined from ordering any disbursement of public funds. So they can't change anything. They want everything to be binding. They say DOGE can't cancel anything, can't get rid of government property, because remember, they're nuking people's cubicles even. Ordering rescissions. They want them to stop making personnel decisions, stop taking actions to dismantle agencies, accessing sensitive data, and blah, blah, blah. Signed off on by all the states. And not all the states. How many is it? I don't know. A bunch of them listed here. Maryland, Washington, Vermont. Oh, that guy from Vermont. Massachusetts, Senator Hirono's Hawaii. Did you have sex with anyone today? That one and others. So they sued, and guess where that case is landing? Guess where it got assigned? None other than Judge Tanya Chutkan. You remember her from the January 6th case. Isn't that great? So Tanya Chutkan comes back into the fray, one of the most corrupt federal judges we've talked about here, and she now gets assigned the new case. What a total scam, right? So here's another order that came down, and again, I think this one is just going to dig them into a deeper hole. It's going to box them in. Essentially, the Supreme Court is going to come out, and they're going to have to issue an order that is more in alignment with the unitary executive theory, which is a phrase you're hearing a lot more about, which says that the executive branch is an independent branch, because it is. And now we're going to start treating it like that, which is going to be great. So this order came down out again of the District of Columbia, and we check our mind map, and this judge who issued this one is this guy, Judge Amir Ali, DC Circuit Court as well. And this is the case of Global Health Council and their nonprofits. They say that we're being hurt now because our money is gone. And he's basically saying your money is coming back on because he's in charge of the entire executive branch. He says these plaintiffs are nonprofits and other entities, and they get federal grant money. And now they're suing under the APA, which of course doesn't apply to the president. They say they want restraining orders to stop the president, including the president, from stopping your executive order. The court held a hearing and recognized the harms against these NGOs, and it will be irreparable if they're harmed. And so now here's some background. They say every year Congress appropriates a bunch of money. On January 20th, Trump issued an executive order along with the OMB. In the days that followed, agencies started suspending congressionally appropriated foreign aid, but it wasn't appropriated to the Council of Health Global Losers or the AIDS Vaccine Advocacy Coalition, whatever that is. They weren't specifically appropriated the money. The Secretary of State issued a memo suspending all of those. There were immediate stop work orders. OMB's acting director issued a memo. You're all fired. A list of defendants said that a list that Trump provided said that there were 230 contracts and grants terminated just 2 days, even after they were sued, gone. And that list doesn't include all of them that are still being canceled after those 2 days. So the doctors and the AIDS people, they all say that they have suffered. We're going to suffer enormous harm to our businesses. Oh no. Wow. Could you imagine if we sued the government because they were locking us down and we said, you can't lock us down. It's going to harm our businesses. They would have said, go drop dead. Okay. You're going to get this jab no matter what, and you're locked down. Now these judges are like, oh no, it's going to hurt businesses and small businesses. They're going to be in jeopardy. Plaintiffs have provided evidence that they will be forced to shut down programs, furlough and terminate staff, and shutter their businesses entirely. How many restaurants did we lose during COVID? Everybody who sued the government to say, you can't do this to us, they all lost. Now the American people have elected and confirmed we wanted this done. And now suddenly they care about small businesses. It's a joke. They have also it's small Democrat businesses, okay? It's small blue businesses. They don't care about your business if you're a small business owner, because you're probably Republican in many cases, because you're going to understand what it's like to pay taxes. They also have provided supporting, but if you're one of these NGOs, if you're an advocacy group that's a nonprofit that gets government money, you don't care about any of that. They have also provided supporting evidence that Trump has and will have a catastrophic effect on humanitarian missions. That is Trump's discretion to make that determination, not this court's. So they say, okay, we have to grant a TRO. At this early stage, the court finds that the doctors and the AIDS people win. The court says there will be irreparable harm. Oh no, given the scale of the disruption. Okay, they say a blanket suspension of this money will cause immense financial harm. Good. In many cases, going to force them to significantly cut down on staff or reduce operations. Excellent. That's the point. We know there is going to be difficulty here. That's the point. They say this harm is not based upon expectations of future grants. They say it's happening right now. Look at this crap. One plaintiff, this judge is protecting them, a large investigative journalism organization. I don't care about this large investigative journalism organization. They have agreements that say it's 38% of their budget. This is some Ukraine entity, I would guess. AIDS vaccine as well. They say we're going to lose everything. Due to the suspension of the money, the organization has been forced to cut 43 people, all fired, with most remaining being moved to a shorter work week. The organization has to cancel events, cut travel for reporting, and freeze new equipment. The organization says that the disruption will continue if it doesn't have relief. Can you believe this? We don't care. Why are we paying for their journalism? Okay. All other independent journalism and investigative journalists have to fund themselves. Are they going to pay us here? I don't want their crap money. Judge, no one cares about that. That's not your judgment to substitute protecting some Ukraine propaganda organization. A nonprofit plaintiff is also focusing on protecting refugees. They had to fire 500 people. Good, bye. It's been forced to shutter programs and not pay vendors. They can find other money like the rest of us have to do. We fund ourselves. Another plaintiff representing small businesses, okay, so not the actual small businesses, but some small business, organization, says that people are not paying their invoices. This has forced small businesses to furlough most U.S. national staff in home offices and on contracts and terminate foreign national staff as well. Bye. Another plaintiff focusing on addressing AIDS and HIV has already been forced to fire 7 people, and they're going to fire 10 more. Great. Yeah, I know. And my whole life, it's been AIDS, AIDS, AIDS. We're always fighting AIDS everywhere, and everything has to be spent to stop AIDS. Got it. Okay, we got our own problems in America. Other plaintiffs have described how the blanket suspension is going to undermine their core mission. So this judge cares more about them than America. One plaintiff asserts that the suspension of foreign aid is going to disrupt health programs for moms and babies. Yeah, $4 million. Stop work order, $4 million for funding American schools and hospitals in Nepal and Vietnam. Okay, that's great. $4 million can come back here to America, not in Vietnam and Nepal. The plaintiff's organization attests to its suspension. This is an existential threat to our life-saving work. I know, they're all civil servants. They're all lifetime career people, and they all do life-saving work. We know. They can go do it somewhere else. They can come to America and do it here. Another plaintiff says it can no longer fund shelters for minors in Central America trying to escape recruitment into criminal gangs. Oh, no. Great. The Central Americans can deal with their own shelters. A different plaintiff also says it has abruptly stopped providing medical services in Bangladesh. Again, they can figure it out there. A lot of smart people there in Bangladesh. Additional plaintiff says that freezes have delayed time-sensitive anti-malaria campaigns in Kenya, Uganda, Ghana, Ethiopia, Zimbabwe. They can figure it out. Another plaintiff, HIV prevention, more AIDS. I know, AIDS everywhere. At the court hearing, Trump acknowledged that the types of harms affecting businesses and availability of medicine can be considered irreparable harm. They're like, well, would that be irreparable? Yeah, maybe. But some of those contracts have included clauses that allows us to terminate them. Now, plaintiffs have further reduced evidence, they say, that this harm has taken place. It's going to continue. The secretary said, well, we'll waive you. Like if you have a real serious problem, like someone's going to die, apply for a waiver. But they say we apply for waivers and we're still having harms. We want money for everything. Like the waivers are not wavy enough. One plaintiff said that they met with the State Department to discuss what activities would qualify for a waiver. The officer stated, I don't know, just apply. I'll let you know. Apply and we'll see. They further said that even if they have a waiver, no funds could be dispersed because the payout portals are no longer functioning. Okay. So when they all go to get fat at the trough and just slobber down our Treasury dollars, they can't. It's not there. They say there are waivers and also there's also global supply chain problems, right? So we might get our money, but we need everybody to get their money because of global supply chains. So they need all of the trans comic books to end up like they need the printer of the trans comic books. They need the artist of the trans comic books. They need someone to write it. And then they need it, to print it and ship it. So they all got to get paid for their tranny comic books. Now, at the hearing, defendants pointed to the waiver process, but did not rebuke this evidence, saying, yeah, a lot of people want their money, so there will be hiccups. So now that we know, the judge says, there's evidence that there's harms, people are still getting terminated, no one's getting money, and they submitted documentation. Okay, this was so epic. I love this. because we talked about this, the independent source theory, right? The independent justification for canceling and rescinding these funds, as long as Trump can identify some other basis for it, he's justified, according to him and to me. Saying that Trump submitted documentation that just in the 2 days after they got sued, so they're sued, they canceled an additional 230 contracts. We're suing you to stop doing this. Okay, well, we're not stopping at all. 230 more are gone. Canceled. Absent relief, this is going to continue. So the judge says there is irreparable harm. It also appears that they're going to win. They say it does look arbitrary and capricious. It does look like it's in violation of the APA. They say it's in violation of the Take Care Clause. No, Judge, you are. Allowing this to continue is a violation of your oath of office to this country. Ultra-virus, according to the AIDS people, the court only needs to find that they're going to succeed. And we also do think this is final agency action. And so the judge ultimately says, this is necessary. There's no explanation why a blanket suspension of all this aid, which is setting off a shockwave, is happening. We don't owe you an explanation. The explanation is Trump won the election. We debated all of these reasons before the election. This is not a new concept for you. We told you that we were going to come in and Elon was going to clean house. It's happening. You got your explanation. You don't get to demand another one. Does he have the power or not? He does. Most defendants offer as a possibility that they could terminate it because of a clause. They wrote a whole executive order. To be sure, there is nothing arbitrary and capricious. They should have looked at these contracts and they didn't do that. So plaintiff has shown that this is arbitrary and capricious and they can't have their money cut off. And so they say, the judge says, in sum, once we balance the factors of public and private interest, we do have to understand that Congress gave these people this money and it's going to harm American businesses. It's going to shut down programs and lay off employees and shutter things altogether and vulnerable populate and all this crap. Hey, judge, you're not a congressperson. You don't get to consider all this legislative stuff, okay? We considered those determinations at the executive branch and made the decision accordingly. And they say there's no... And with all of this evidence of harm, I think this finds in favor of the Democrats, obviously, because he's a Democrat judge. For the foregoing reasons, the temporary, anything limiting the temporary restraining orders are now denied. The court does not find it necessary to enjoin the president. Okay, obviously, judge is like, I'm not going to go that far. So the judge just got done saying the president has no power to do these things. And then in his order, he excludes the president because he's pathetic. Given the breadth of the relief initially sought, the court also makes clear it does not enjoin the president or the Secretary of State, nor does the court enjoin any aspect of conduct related to a comprehensive review. So again, the judge is carving out all these independent sources, which is what Trump is going to continue to use. While plaintiffs have made the showing for a temporary injunction, it's not adequately tailored at this stage. But the court does find that a blanket suspension of foreign aid, as specified below, you can't do that. So whatever that is. So he's, okay, it's not blanket. We're just you're suspended, and you're suspended, and you're suspended. So there are directives as follows. Consistent with the reasoning, it's ordered that Marco Rubio, the judge is now in charge of Marco, and the Department of State and others are temporarily enjoined from giving effect to your memo that Rubio, who is a Senate confirmed and approved person, issued. The judge is revoking that. So you can no longer suspend or pause or otherwise prevent disbursement of foreign aids as a result of this memo. Okay. So again, these are such dumb opinions from these judges because they're carving out all of this. Like, as long as Rubio and the executive branch can find independent justifications for doing what they're doing, they're carved out to do it. They just can't rely on this one memo that they just issued. Fine. Go use all the same powers that Joe Biden did. Fine. Issuing or implementing terminations or other stop work orders based on that memo. It's the same damn pattern. And so it's now ordered that nothing in this order shall prohibit Trump from enforcing the terms of contracts or grants. They shall take all steps to effectuate this order. And they shall file a status report signed off on by Biden's judge, Amir Ali, who is this guy in the DC Circuit, DC District Court. So what you'll notice is, let's just change this little typo here. Your boy was copying and pasting a lot when I was making this. All right, so DC District Judge Amir Ali carves out a little bit of an exception for the judge or for the Trump administration, but by and large is still way overstepping his bounds, saying that the Secretary of State can't govern the Secretary of State's office and rescind foreign aid under the power and the authority of the President of the United States. It's sick behavior. It's all going to come back to bite them in the butt. We can be sure of that. But here is another explanation from the House Foreign Affairs Committee explaining just how bad all this foreign aid actually is. And where the hell is Congress coming back to support President Trump with legislation that will actually codify the total rescissions of all of these things? Now that we have control of both houses of power, they should be doing something about this to support President Trump, to make these more permanent so that the next president who comes in can't undo it all.
House Foreign Affairs Committee got another edition of wasteful spending from, you guessed it, USAID. Let's get into the numbers. $849,000 plus for a transgender job fair in Bangladesh, where the median monthly income is about $220 a month. Nearly $2 million for sex change surgeries in Guatemala by a trans-led organization. $55 million to strengthen Libyan public financial management processes. $31.5 million to help USAID employees with counseling, organizational resilience, wellness, and work-life balance. That's a lot of money for work-life balance there. $20 million to create a Sesame Street program in Iraq. $4.1 million to create a Bangladesh Sesame Street program. Another $5.2 million to create a Nigerian Sesame Street pilot program. A lot of money going to these little puppet Muppets in these foreign countries. $3.9 million to teach essential life skills through Bangladeshi Muppets, more Muppets. $22 million to increase tourism in Tunisia and Egypt. Man, we want to spend a lot of money on their tourism. We should be spending that on American tourism, maybe. $520 million to pay ESG consultants to teach people in Africa about countering climate change. $24.4 million to build green transportation alternatives in the country of Georgia. $29 million to diversify crop agriculture in the country of Georgia. $4.5 million to teach individuals in Kazakhstan how to fight back against internet trolls. $1.3 million to create a comfortable environment for LGBTQ people in North Macedonia. $420,000 to build solar panels in Djibouti. $18,793 to help LGBTQ individuals vote in the 2021 Honduras elections. $5 million to reduce carbon emissions in China. Yeah, we're giving China $5 million there. $5.5 million to improve the lives of LGBTQ individuals in Uganda. $23,000 to host DEI recruitment seminars in San Martin and in Lima, Peru. $65,700,000 for vasectomies in the Congo. I don't even like that word. $595,000 to empower Uganda's LGBT community to push back against anti-LGBTQ legislation.
Which is probably what those people want.
To provide services for men who have sex with men in South Africa.
What?
I have no idea why they wrote it that way. $15 million to identify and enhance the leadership of LGBTQ leaders in Cambodia. We're resurrecting leaders there for millions of dollars. $100,000 to conduct a DEI survey in Ghana. $50,000 to create a DEI fellowship in Uzbekistan. $30,000 for DEIA facilitated conversations in Senegal. There is a new list of all of the ways that USAID is wasting your money on top of all of the old ones that we gave you already. Time for change, everybody. The change is coming.
And that's what Democrats in the Democratic Party are fighting for. They're suing everywhere they can possibly sue to keep that money going because they were in on it. They were in on that grift. Clearly, that money is not going to DEI surveys in the sub-Saharan Africa or whatever that was. It's going to other people for other things, and that is just the simple excuse they're using to fund whatever it is they're funding, which largely has been an anti-American, pro-democratic ideal, which is a sick thing for our country to be doing. That's our money. It should never happen. So Dan Scavino, you know, he works over at the White House. He is showing us what I thought was a very beautiful symbolism on just how badly this stuff backfires for the Democrats. They launched this lawfare. They've launched it for years. We've covered many iterations of this, and they're not learning their lesson. They indicted Trump. Big Fanny, it was her big day when she came out and got the mugshot of Trump, but now look where that mugshot is hanging. And this is just, I think, a taste of things to come. The Supreme Court will come and help clear a lot of this lawfare up in these D.C. circuit district courts, and we will be covering it and will emerge victoriously, just like this mugshot led to the White House. From Dan, you can see that's the Oval Office. Let me get myself out of the way so you can see how beautiful that looks. Woof. Inside. Amazing. So thank you, Dan Scavino, for sharing that with us. Now, we also had our friend ALX on X. He got it from a different angle. So when you're watching the screen there, you see Trump and Rubio. There is the mugshot back there, right outside the Oval Office. Shout out to ALX for clipping those two. So we will be victorious, my friends. The Democrats haven't learned a thing. They keep suing. And in many ways, we hope they do, because all they're going to do is make it so important and so necessary that the Supreme Court comes back out, confirms the unitary executive, does it quickly, and then we'll have a nice glide path for the next 4 years and beyond. And that, my friends, is it for us on the day. If you're just joining us, we had a great stream a little earlier today. Thank you for subscribing so that we catch you here on the next one. But to recap, we just talked about this woman, Danielle Sassoon, a so-called prosecutor who resigned ahead of being fired. What a hero. And she wrote this nasty letter into Pam Bondi. But what was so fun about that is that Emil Bove, who does not play around, responded quite aggressively and said, oh, now you're going to be under investigation, and so are all your friends. So get the hell out, good riddance, and goodbye. And it was a great letter articulating exactly how corrupt the Southern District of New York truly is, and Trump also commented on that one, so check that one out. Then we spent the rest of the day talking about what happened in the Southern District of New York during a hearing where the judge, who was appointed by Joe Biden, essentially just extended the TRO. We'll have a full order and further proceedings on that one, amongst many others. We also saw Tish James was out today, very unhappy that she is now under scrutiny for being a corrupt politician. And in D.C., we saw a whole slew of new states sue Elon and Trump, saying that Elon is unelected and unappointed and he can't do what he's doing. We'll see where that goes. But Amir Ali is continuing to carve out exceptions that allow Trump, using independent justifications, to continue to do what he's doing. He just can't rely on his executive orders. Okay, they'll find other justifications, and this fight will continue. And so good stuff there. The fraud was shocking. And these numbers are always just
skill change.
These numbers are always deflating almost, right? If you've been in a business, you're like, yeah, if you like you're a salesperson, for example, you sold $1 million of anything. Like, think about that. Like, think of how much money that is. Like, yeah, I used to, sell a lot of stuff in my day in various ways. That's a lot. A lot. You have to do that 520 times so that people in Africa can learn about climate change. So get out there and sell those, whatever. It's disgusting. Anyways, all right. Now, my friends, it's time to hear from you. And I hope you're having a beautiful Valentine's Day and you're just brimming with love and joy. There has been a lot of joy. I have to give Kamala that. Let's see who's here in the house on this lovely Friday, my friends. We got some great donos here. Thank you, K-Bean. Thank you, Donut, for clipping for us. We got new membos in the house. What a glorious afternoon it is. Hey, Chuck Gore is here. What's up, Chuck Gore? Great to see you. Thanks for becoming a membo. Be sure to grab the members only stream that we covered this morning if you're looking for some more content. We had a great member stream this morning. What's up, Chuck Gore? It's great to see you. And Bill Dozer. What's up, Bill Dozer? Says, hey, Bill Dozer, number 74 over on Rumble. Great to see you, Bill. Says, hey, don't forget to like, comment, share, repost, and follow Robert. And also, check out the show called Bill Dozer 74 on Rumble. If you have time, I stream Monday, Thursday, Saturday, 9:30 Central, trying to hit 1,000 followers. He says, my show, it's adequate. So if you're looking for a very adequate show, Bill Dozer, 3 days a week. Bill, congrats, man, on hitting 1,000. Very awesome. I hope that you continue to persevere and accumulate even more followers over there and here, wherever it is you're streaming. I think it's a very rewarding and important thing to be doing. We need a lot of voices out there, and we support you, Bill. So thanks for that. Check it out, my friends, at Bill Dozer 74 on Rumble. George Combs. What's up, George Combs? Welcome, George. We'll see you tomorrow on the Saturday members only stream. I can't even believe it's Friday. Wild. Philip Butler. What's up, Philip Butler? Says, I just got my Social Security payment. Yeah, Tish. What about that? So read it and weep. Thank you, Philip B., for the report. Leonard S. says, modest support for your conservative platform. Respect. Thank you, Leonard. My man, I appreciate it. Modest or not, I appreciate everything. Everything is very much appreciated. Every little bit counts, and it's not little. It's a lot. Thank you, Leonard. I appreciate that, brother. Thank you for that. Tony Hay Munkets, what's up? 5 membos coming in the house. Thank you, Tony Hay. Bringing in KP, only grants. Evie loves you. We love you too, Evie. Thank you for that. iChurch Cafe and Trappin' After Dark in the house. Good to see everybody. Welcome aboard. Thank you, Tony Hay Munkets, for bringing in 5 new membos. What's up? Wix is in the house. Good to see you, Wix. Welcome aboard as our newest supporter. Don McRoherty, what's up, Don? Says, happy Valentine's Day, Rob, and watching the Watchers. Love, light, and blessings. Thank you, Don. Baker's dozen of membo months there. Grateful for you. George Garbanzo, what's up, George? Says, the Declaration of Independence says, but when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. From George Garbanzo in the house. A very important document, George. And thank you for reminding us of its power. We got Sheila the Pooh is here, and for the nice dono, George, thank you. What's up, Sheila the Pooh? 10 membos coming in. Says, it's our right is here. We got World Peace is joining. Twisted Man. What's up, Carl Finley? Anna LP. We got Buster Ellis, Diane DeMars, Chad Galloway, welcome. Vincent Martin, and DCL, gifted membos in the house, courtesy of Sheila Pooh. A million hugs to you. Thank you, Sheila, for bringing in 10 new membos. We'll see everybody tomorrow. Nacho Mama says, happy Valentine's Day, my lovely friends. Happy Valentine's Day to you, Nacho Mama. Hopefully you're doing something fun today and loving. Linda Hunter, what's up, Linda? 14 months as a membo, says lucky number 14, thumbs up, hole in one, and cowboy emoji. Thank you, Linda. 14 months, it's a good one. Lucky number 14. Glad you're here, Linda. Thanks for being here for a year and then some. Sharpie Guy says, I'm an hour behind, y'all. What did I miss about today's afternoon, Rob? An hour behind? Well, okay, you still got maybe some New York hearing stuff, and you've got some Tish James coming up, and you've got some corrupt DC judges coming up. It's going to be great. Pookie's Ma says, only an hour late. Happy Valentine's Day. Yeah, we jumped a little early today because we're going to go out and celebrate our own little Pookie ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Hey, Waldo. What's up, Waldo? 1 new membo coming in. Collecting Cats. Welcome, Collecting Cats. Welcome. Michelle says, who else remembers Bill Gates buying up a ton of farmland? You know, small farms don't have the funds to sue the government. Yeah, and they want to do it all on the back of like green stuff, right? It's more efficient if we don't have your cows pooping out there. It's our cows pooping out there. Different cow flatulence. Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, him and like Chinese. Like, why do we allow foreign countries to come in and buy all of our land? It's ridiculous. Tony Hay Munkets, what's up? I hope Trump does get rid of income tax and goes to tariff. It'll make the government have to make America better to fund themselves instead of getting a free ride from the taxpayers. Yeah, something like that. And we talked about this too this morning. Trump's administration is talking about like there's a finite amount of dollars. Like there's like literally like a finite amount of them because there should be. But we've never heard them talking like that before. And it fried Jake Tapper's brain. Knox Bierman, what's up, Knox? Says, happy Valentine's Day, all. I feel like I've been getting Valentine's Day presents since January 20th. Yeah. Yeah, it's something like that. The analogy we used this morning was like Christmas every morning when Trump comes out with new executive orders. I'm like, oh, what's coming today? Can't wait to see it. Comes out, signs a bunch of new stuff. Yay. Thank you, Knox. Philip Butler says, dang, Popeye, how much spinach did you eat today? Is Popeye, I'm not sure. Popeye, well, he usually eats a can, 1 full can, obviously. right in the mouth. It's amazing how he does that. He's so strong. Knox, did men in Congo want vasectomies, or was this forced for their own good? I noticed that, Knox. It's like, wait a minute. Is this like a eugenics program we're spending on? Is that what's really going on in Africa? Dark questions. Thank you, Knox. Cliff Norman says, several of the Democrats argue these are small amounts of money. This is death by 1,000 cuts, right? They do that all the time. They did that at the very beginning, and that was like one of their initial attacks. It's like 1% of the budget, so who cares? We care. It's $30 million going to African vasectomies? What? Yes, we care. Ed, can U.S. get sanctions against state AGs for lying about Elon, canceling contracts in their complaint, and intentionally misleading the court? I mean, I guess if it was egregious enough, yeah. I mean, if they're like violating some ethical conduct, they got to do something bad, right? Really bad. Making an aggressive complaint that's arguably within the bounds, I don't think would be justifying of sanctions, and especially not in these districts, not in the Southern District of New York. They're not getting sanctioned. They're going to get promoted and elevated. Hey, Knox is here. The Defender says, breaking. Trump going to strip federal funding from schools that mandate the COVID jab. I saw him signing that this afternoon. Great news. A lot more is going to be coming from RFK, no doubt. Tony Hay Munkets bringing in 5 more membos. Thank you, Tony Hay, for doing this. Look who's coming in. We got O. Peterson, Tammy Green. We got Andrew A., Miss Moon, and Jackal. Gifted membos, courtesy of Tony Hay Munkets. This old guy says, if I was a liberal activist judge, perish the thought, I would not be volunteering to issue TROs of the president and therefore outing myself. I think I'd be letting everyone know who my full docket is and that I simply have no time to take on anything else for the next 4 years. Maybe you would be volunteering to issue TROs. Yeah, if you are a liberal activist, it's like you volunteer for the night sessions. I'll take those night warrants. I'll do anything. And you just time the Norm Eisen complaints to come in when you're, fielding those inbox requests. So you could just be there and just gum him up, right? And they know they're there for a lifetime appointment. They're not getting impeached, so they can do whatever they want. Lee Saps, what's up, Lee Saps, says WNC just got $1.65 billion for the Helene damage. WNC, we just got. Oh, West North Carolina, probably. $1.65 billion for Helene. Yeah, well, that's, I guess, what U.S. money should actually be used for. The U.S. Shocking news. Lee Saps, great news. 11 months as a membo. Thank you for that, Lee Saps. Alpha She-Wolf says, happy Valentine's Day to all my Watching the Watchers friends. Happy Valentine's Day to you, Alpha She-Wolf. Thanks for being an amazing membo for 21 months. We're grateful for you. Useless Idiot says, all right, Rob, you've been doing this for the last couple years. Who would you most likely see them being able to actually bring charges against, referring to politicians? Happy Valentine's Day. Great question. Happy Valentine's Day to you, useless idiot. So I'm a big fan of Liz Cheney, right? I know she was a congresswoman, and I know that there's legislative immunity, but I think that she acted extra legislatively when she was obstructing and interfering with Clavicle Girl outside of a proper legislative bound, and she was abusing her position to do that. So I think that she could get abuse of office, she could get obstruction, she could get suborning perjury charges. There was a 1512B, I think, for obstruction. So Liz Cheney, she should be prosecuted immediately. Boopsie says, Dear Rob, happy St. Valentine's Day to you and your pregnant wife. I can dream, can I? I truly thank you for all the fun you bring us 6 days a week. Plus, have a great day. Boopsie, thank you for that. Yeah, you can dream. So can my mama. Mom, are you out there? Did you tell her to write this? Thank you, Boopsie. Yes, to the lovely Miss Alexis, happy Valentine's Day to my beautiful love. She's amazing. Thank you, Boopsie. We're going to go celebrate tonight. Hey, Cheryl says, I'm leaving for a few weeks in Australia on Monday. Cheryl, have a great trip. That's a big trip. I'll miss Rob and all of you on these lives, but I'll be catching the replays from the land down under. Shout out to our friends in Australia. Have a very safe trip, Cheryl, and we'll see you when you get back. Take care, all. Take care to you. Thanks for that. And we'll see you soon. God bless America says Congress approves Social Security and VA payments for 5 years, says God bless America. So, yeah, don't even have to worry about that. But Tish, they're trying to scare the seniors. Like they're going to come and steal your Social Security. What? Elon's going to come steal your Social Security? For what? How's that going to work? Nobody really knows. But they just like to scare their uneducated constituents. But, my friends, thank you for sending all of those tremendous and amazing donos in the house. Let's see what's happening with our friends over on X. And then, of course, we're going to wrap it up, go over to locals, and debrief for a little bit. Hey, what's going on? B. Torn says. Oh, no. So, B. Torn is on X, but hasn't been able to be seen on YouTube. Can't be seen there. I watch members-only shows. Nobody sees me. YouTube has not responded. I have perks, but no ability to use them. That is weird, B-Torn. I don't know why that might be. Is it a shadow ban? Fred says, the Democrats are the party of lawfare. That is literally the only thing they have. No message, no leaders, just lawsuits, which is true. What's up, Jody? Happy Valentine's Day. Jay, Miss Coffee, good to see you. Thank you for being here. And JR says, why does it seem that Fannie is flying under the radar? Well, Fannie appealed. We haven't gotten to Fannie's stuff yet, but Fannie appealed in the Supreme Court of Georgia. And she'll be back. Fannie will be back, no doubt. And Fred is here. Hey, Fred says, Knox, hey, Knox Bierman. We love Knox. Knox will always be Johnny and I's Valentine. Knox. Man, that's amazing, Fred. Thanks for shouting Knox out again. We checked on our friends with X. And Sergeant GPS shared this one. Oh, this is a nice Valentine from Trump and Sergeant. You stole my heart like it was a 2020 election. Oh, Trump. That's so moving. Thank you. Hey, Lisa Wilson says, I still want to know if blanket pardons cover treason. Answer, yes, they do. Yeah, they would. They would cover everything. The only thing it doesn't cover is impeachment. I think we looked that up specifically, but yeah, they do. It does. Hey, unfortunately, hey, I think it is fortunate, right? Because then you could charge Trump with treason, and then he couldn't pardon himself, right? You want the American people to have the final say, which is why we have the pardon power. Biden abused the hell out of it, and it should be there should be political ramifications for that, and the Democrats might be experiencing that. I mean, I would imagine many of them are disgusted by Joe Biden's pardoning of his entire family. B.H. Williams says, did this get discussed? Democrats in Ohio are proposing to outlaw what? Ohio? Yeah, all right. I don't know what that story is. All right. Anyways, thank you for that, B.H. Williams. Yeah, Democrats are nuts, so who knows what the hell they're doing. Anyways, all right, my friends. Thank you so much for being here and for sending in those amazing donos and for being amazing membos and for just joining us when we go live. Really grateful to have you here. I know there's a ton of stuff going on. We're grateful for the time we get to spend together. We are going to pause there for the evening. And of course, we're going over to locals to debrief for a little bit. Members, stick around tomorrow. We'll have our Saturday show, so don't forget about that. We hope to see you there. But before we wrap it up, we want to thank our amazing mods and meme smiths. K Bean in the house, Donut, Carrie B playing hooky. We got Dog Digger and Janek modding the fort down for us, keeping things so beautiful and so nice and orderly around here, and we love them for that. My friends, it has been an amazing week streaming together with you here. There's been a lot going on. There's going to be a lot more to come. And so we will pause here for the weekend. We'll go spend some time on Valentine's Day with the people we love and just unplug for the weekend for a little bit so that when we come back here on Monday, we are refreshed, restored, and ready to go. We're going to get outside, get some fresh air, some vitamin D, some good movement in our bodies, spend time with our family, our friends, the people that we love. So when we are back here on Monday, we're even more powerful than you can possibly imagine. We got plenty to get into. We can't wait to do it. And so, my friends, once again, thank you for joining us. We're coming back on Monday to get into it again. And in order to do that appropriately, we're going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability, and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends, and an amazing weekend. We'll see you right back here on Monday. Bye-bye.